Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our third episode of the Blitz podcast. I think today will be a very special episode. I will go ahead, although we don't have the name of our podcast, unless you have the name Lem. Um, this
I
up,
have not thought that far ahead still.
yep, we're gonna be like pretty much done this season and still not have one, but that's okay. But this special episode, I could probably already predict the title will be called the Tyrants episode. But yeah, joining me today is Len and our very special guest, Money.
Hello. By the
Money,
way,
Welcome, money.
the name is the Bricked Up Blitz Podcast. I'm telling you.
Bricked Up Podcast, Bricked Up Blitz Podcast, the BBB podcast.
Oh yeah, baby.
What about hold on, bricked up Blitz League podcast.
There he is.
Oh,
We could, I think
Bricked Up Blitz Bonanza League Podcast.
I think that it could work. I think there are people out there drinking out there with Lem right now in Greece. What do you think, Money?
Dude, I'm telling you, he's drunk already. He's ready to
This
pass
is my
out.
first drink, I assure you all.
Um, yeah, so what a week we've had so far. We had both playoff games wrap up in the last couple of days, but the most recent one was the um, Huevo Picantes and the Phoenix D. What were your thoughts on that game?
I'll start. I think it was the game of the season. I have thoughts on like individual players, performances, how they did, and everything like that. But short summary, like it was amazing to watch. Game of the season, nail biter, coming right down to the end. A lot of interesting strategic decisions made throughout the game. So fantastic overall.
What would you, before we jump into Lem's thoughts, who was the MVP of that game for you, Money? And if you were, like, I know you're not the type to really shit on anyone, and I don't want you to, but if you were to say, like, the one that surprised you the most in terms of didn't perform on this game, who would you say those two players would be?
MVP and LVP, you're
Hmm.
asking?
Yes, sir.
Well, so yeah, it's tricky because I think Dan carried Phoenix D like no other. Offensively, defensively, Yak, right? He was blocking. He was just killing it all around. That being said, doesn't make a lot of sense to have an MVP on the losing team. So it's got to go to Tony or Smith. Right? I think Tony was playing out of his mind um, on offense. I know he personally had felt like he had some struggles on defense, but he did well, all things considered. And even though Lem had that kind of game securing interception there at the end, he only played a half, so hard to give that to him. And Smith did great overall too. There's a couple of things to criticize here and there, but I think we can say without a doubt the rust is gone, and you know he like he's only getting better from here. So Tony or Smith, I'd say MVP. Probably got to lean towards Tony on that. And LVP, um, I gotta say you got to go with CJ on that, mostly for his defensive performance. Um, he was just falling short, especially on those two big passes early on in the game. Tony got those big touchdowns. I'm not really sure what CJ was thinking there on defense in his coverage. I think we expected everyone expected a little bit more out of him that game. He underperformed for sure.
Yeah, I would agree that those post plays. And I heard post game and last night his thoughts about everything as well. And we'll give him a chance to be on this podcast in a future episode to share his side of the story. But for now, from an outsider's perspective, without knowing the defensive calls, I agree. Those two big plays that made them go down or like just allowed the spicy eggs to convert such, in my opinion, easy touchdowns. And Tony made great plays for sure, and I'm sure Smith and Tony had something to do with it. But those are just, in my opinion, very easy touchdowns. Lem, what were your thoughts on about that game, and the fact that you were the one to clinch, pretty much seal the game at the end there.
So I'm obviously a little biased, you could say, but um, I thought the game was very exciting. I don't know if it was the best game of the year because we did have an OT game that was ended up in the shootout. That might have been quote unquote more exciting, but this
Mm.
was on par with that. And we've had like so many games that have been similarly exciting that were like one score or last drive sort of thing. So we were always nail biters, but this game was very good. Overall, safe team performance from all four of us. So Smith was doing a great job. He opted to take sacks instead of throwing icons in case they might not have been open. Whereas earlier in the season, Tony might have thrown an icon to avoid the sack, and if the person that's getting icon isn't ready, they can get the interception. So Smith was playing a bit safer than that. That could be maybe a remnant of rust as well, not quite seeing it or not quite trusting it, not having that much chemistry to play together. Um, so I think it felt like a very safe game. Um, on those touchdowns, I mean, like you can criticize CJ's covering, but if he's kind of out there on an island and it's like a 40 to 50 yard throw, um, depending on how Tony cuts and when he cuts, he can make the double move to get open for like a kind of PP from Smith if Smith is watching it, and Smith and Tony do have some good chemistry. So I can't fault CJ completely on those because if you make the right break, that's always going to be open. Um, I think that's more of a testament to Tony and Smith. Got to give hella props to Ma for containing Young. He arguably contained him better than me. He got a few more. He got a few sacks, whereas um, I was happy with my interception to help out there. But honestly, I mentioned this in the chats too. I think they played a great game. I think Jeff played a great game. Um, I think Jeff really only had like one or two interceptions, but he was playing good and within his limits. And Dan and CJ, especially Dan with the yak and stuff, were playing great overall. So we're just happy to come away with the win.
Yeah.
Two things I want to bounce off of there is, yeah, without knowing the defensive play calls, I suppose it is tough to criticize CJ too much. But I think Lem is the foremost, I'd say the forefather of all boostology. You may appreciate looking at some of those replays. I think a couple of those passes did come down to the boostology on CJ, where he did it a little too early, right? He used his defensive boost rather than waiting for Tony to use his boost first. Like, he used
Yeah,
his boost, then Tony saw that, knowing the boostology, and then he boosted quick in the opposite direction, which just left CJ way behind. Right. So that to me was a big part, was the boostology there.
totally agree. Um, you said you had a second point?
And then the second part was, yeah, Jeff. Yeah, I think you said play within his limits. Jeff, like, strategically, it was a fantastic game. He didn't try to do too much. He knew his team. He knew himself. Not as much practice recently, so a lot of those short dump off plays, tosses, screens, what have you. And yeah, I think it was a brilliant game plan by Jeff.
Yeah.
Totally agreed. I
Um,
think he did a really good job even without the practice. I don't know if he was practicing or not. Who was practicing? Because I've been here, but he seemed pretty good.
I was
Yeah.
here. Jeff. may not have got his own team practice in, but the night before the game, he was on for a few hours, just playing pub games with a few of us, and he did get some QB reps in. Surprisingly, he didn't play too much with Dan that night, um, but he did get his own QB reps. And I would also like to say that I thought that Jeff played overall pretty great. For all the points that
Yeah.
you both already mentioned as well, so I won't repeat those ones. But if I were to critique Jeff, I think the only thing would have liked to see him adjust to during the game was trying to get do a better play calling to get CJ open in some deep balls. I don't know if the game plan from beginning to end was CJ deep and RB short, because I think a lot of those Dan catches were RB icons or RB like short passes with the Wraith moving whatever. But I think if he was able to switch it up and let CJ work with some space, maybe some more short plays, see more of an impact from CJ. And just yeah, so that's all about the play calling. But like we said, overall, Jeff played quite well given the fact that we've seen his struggles in pub games leading up to this game.
Yep. Completely agree.
So two storylines came out from after the game, and we could talk about one. I'll just share both of them first, and then we could try to talk about one first. After the game, there was a lot of shade thrown at each other from Phoenix D. It seems like it was the team against Jeff. Both Dan and CJ were very vocal to a lot of us about what Jeff could have done differently before the game and actual in the game, and then also and we kind of talked about it briefly about like potential playoff rescheduling. So let's start with the turmoil that happened with Phoenix D. Um, why, like, sorry, this team has basically blown up, and it's crazy because CJ and Jeff have years of history. Obviously, we weren't always playing within the last 15, 20 years or whatever, how long we've been gone from. But they were a team back in the day, and Jeff was basically CJ's biggest promoter. CJ, I think a lot of the OGs can attest. We only know of CJ's name from back then is because Jeff was spewing his name all over the place when it came to Team D's games. Um, so, Lem, starting with you, since you were that third member of that team defense, are you surprised to hear the drama that has started between Jeff and CJ?
I don't know if I'm surprised. I think CJ is one to have a big personality. Um, Jeff also has a different kind of big personality. And no matter what, when you combine big personalities, there's always going to be some tension, especially when things go wrong. And this kind of lines up with what we were talking about with the last podcast. Like, you know, how well can teams stay together when they're on the losing side? And Team D or Phoenix D was kind of like right in the middle of the pack, so they weren't really like fully losing all season. They ended up with 3 wins. It's pretty good, just right around 500 for our 7 game season. Um, so I'm not really too surprised that it happened because of their personality types. Um, and especially when both people do have some valid criticisms of each other. Jeff could have did better. CJ could have did better. They could have had better chemistry, etc. But I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of history between them. I think they still have a lot of friendship. I think they talked on and off throughout the years. I think they'll be able to overcome this. But you know what? We gotta get the showdown, and gotta get the showdown played and see what happens from there.
Are you excited to be selected as one of the showdown players?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be that third member from Team D and see if I was the missing link that Jeff needed.
Right, right. See if you were the more important one, since most of the time we give love to the offensive CJ. But CJ is not really a slouch on defense. At least back then it wasn't. Money. Were you surprised? I don't know how much of you've been paying attention, but yeah, a lot of drama one and a half days or whatever since the game's been played between the two. And although Dan hasn't been very vocal about it, immediately at post game he was kind of vocal about the situation. But anyways, money, you are team captain. Uh, I don't imagine you face anything similar to this throughout the season, but maybe do you have any insights, or how would you have handled the situation if you were Jeff in this situation?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't even really know what the situation is. I didn't watch the post game interviews. Um, and I've watched the game itself a couple of times, like just the gameplay. But then the post game interview, I'm like, 40 minutes, 50 minutes long, whatever. Um,
Yeah, that's
I,
crazy.
I didn't watch it. I knew there's drama going on. Like I got enough. That's just the part of the game that I'm not interested in, to be
Yeah,
honest. I got enough stuff going on in life. I'm like, okay, I don't, I'm not really paying attention to this. Plus, Monday, Tuesdays, heavy work days for me, so I don't get on the server as much. So I'm not sure what's going on. All I can say is that whatever's going on, Phoenix D was in it, man. I mean, like last 8 minutes of the second half, like I was going nutty thinking that Phoenix D was going to win. Like they were in a solid position. So criticisms aside, like whatever the criticisms are, game plan, utilizing CJ more, I don't know what it is. Um, it was a damn close game, and they were pretty well in it. So, it's not like they got blown out by any stretch of the imagination. So, I can't imagine there's all that much to be upset about, um, post game at least.
you'll be surprised for some of the people in the server, but I'm not gonna dig into the specifics of what he said or he said. But I will say that
Yeah,
the main contention that CJ had was that um, they didn't practice as a team leading up to this game, and he really wanted them to be going to this game with a game plan. And so, CJ's biggest thing was that they hadn't played since that week 5 loss to the Flying Spiders. And then, as you know, maybe Jeff went on vacation, didn't play, and didn't come back until, probably a week or 2 weeks ago. And since then, they haven't been able to put in time to play or practice together. And so that was CJ's biggest thing, is that like, um,
yeah,
I don't know how to cover with you. You play defense very differently than almost everybody in this game. And so all I had to ask for is just to get one night of practice in. And there was an opportunity the night before, but a bunch of miscommunications things happened, and therefore they went into that game with no practice essentially. So that's
yeah,
basically CJ's biggest concern. So that segues into my question I have for you, Money, is how much this season did you guys practice? Because I could tell you from our side of things, Money, that Finn doesn't come on until league games, and when he does come on, we just play, get some reps in, whatever. But like, I wouldn't necessarily call those practices. I know that
yeah.
you guys put in some time and effort, but maybe I'm just curious, Money, from your side of things, how important was those practice sessions, and did you find it very beneficial for your team as you guys progress throughout the season?
Yeah. Yeah, well, so I can understand CJ's animosity there. He's a competitor in and of himself, so I get why he wants to get those reps in and be fully prepared. For Monopoly Men, we did a shit ton of practice, right? Probably, I want to say overall, especially leading into the playoffs, if you count that week, I'd say we practiced more than any other team. Embarrassing to say, considering our record, right? But we had a lot of practice games, and shout out to everyone, by the way, during all the pub games and throughout the season. Um, Let me play QB a lot and giving up the slot. That was very, very much appreciated. But yeah, we did a lot of practice. We did a lot of strategy. We drew up plays. We had, you know, we I would send back like detailed descriptions and bullet point notes about tendencies and game strategies and things like that. And I can tell you that we wouldn't have done half as well as we did. Again, kind of embarrassing considering the record, but if we didn't do that. So, and especially for us, less, some players play less than others, more inexperienced, things like that. It was very important. So I can understand CJ's gripe there. And perhaps if they did have an extra night or two in, maybe that, that would have been, that would have turned things around completely. So I get it. But again, they were in it. They were still in it at the end. So hard to be completely upset with that game from their side, I would think.
Right. Len, what's your take on this whole practice thing? Did your team practice this season?
So our team got a few practices in here and there, usually with a lineup of me, Ma, and Tony, because obviously Smith was indisposed. I think that's the right word. Um, but so when sometimes even Ma wasn't available, so it would just be kind of like me and Tony with a filler, just to get like a little bit of chemistry. So we got practice here and there throughout the season. We weren't always calling our game plays, but we at least got to like try to get some chem on defense with coverage and stuff like that. But aside from us, I think it helped us like a little bit. But I think practice in general is a little bit more important for kind of like the newcomers. So I think it was
Yes.
like it's like more valid to have like money. You're not necessarily new, but like you at QB and Pop Gun who's new. Like I think it's important to get that in, and specifically for the Monopoly men. Like I think you guys did the right thing of like practicing, like drawing up tendencies, like coming up with all that stuff. I think it's like kind of like uh, a 100 level course that you guys were following. You're doing a lot of theory, and then if you guys play again in the future, I think the biggest thing is to graduate from the theoretical textbook type of stuff to just get sort of that game feel where it comes second nature, and that'll just come with more play time and more experience. So I think to a degree, practice is important, but ultimately, it's like um, just how much do you get it um, from then on. So I didn't practice with my lineup with Smith and Tony, and I only played a half. Um, I think they might have practiced a little bit, but either way, Smith hasn't been available all season, so we haven't really had any practice. It seemed to work out for us. Finn's World obviously doesn't practice. It worked out pretty good for them, and some other teams like Spiders don't
Spiders
really
definitely
practice.
spiders definitely don't practice.
No, Irv plays a lot though, and then PTT don't really practice together all the time, but they will. They play pubs fairly often. So I think that, that's a long-winded way of saying I think practice is important to a degree, but I think it's ultimately just making playtime on your own, and just ultimately do you kind of get it at this point, and if not, then maybe you do need to practice more.
Yeah, that hit the nail on the head there. And there's like team practice and there's individual practice because Jeff was honestly playing a little bit of funky defense that game, and he was and he was playing so deep on a lot of his coverages, which I could understand how like they see that would upset CJ and things could get a little bit. There could be some tensions built over that. So considering that Jeff had very little time, you know, personal practice and then as a team practice overall, yeah, I can understand some of the frustrations. Um, that being said, too, that's one of the things I think for Smith, as well as he played, uh, that especially during the first half, they could have thrown 90 downs, slant downs, quick downs to Jeff's bottom side short all game. And so I'd like to see for them going to their next game have a little bit more of that in-game awareness and adjusting to whatever the defense is throwing at them. But that's a tangent there, though.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll add to what what you just said, Money, about how Jeff plays deep most of the times. As a QB that's been going against him for years now, and recently in this modern era of blitz, his funky defense really does throw off some of the more OG QBs because his style of defense is so unique. And some of us like to accuse him of rafe watching all the time because it's just that funky, right? And sometimes he guesses right, and sometimes he guesses wrong. I think I would understand if I was in CJ's perspective if like Jeff explained to CJ like why is he this deep and what he will do at this point during the play because Jeff may start deep, but if you watch him play sometimes he'll jump short from that angle, from that depth. And
Yeah.
it's effective sometimes if he's right, but obviously if he's wrong, right? So I think if they just had that communication, then they maybe wouldn't be in the situation that they're in today. But going back to
Mhm.
the words of the practice, I think you guys are right that the ones that don't that are still figuring out the mastery of blitz, I would say. Of course, practice is super important, and I actually I'm happy to hear that that these teams are putting in the time to get better because I'm a competitor, and although I don't get practice much with my own team, I like to play each team's absolute best. You know what I mean? So like Finn and I and anyone else who wants to put their names next to us, would love to be challenged all the time, right? So if you guys are constantly improving and trying to dethrone us, like we fully welcome it, right? And this was a conversation I had with Krusty yesterday, where Krusty was trying to give me a compliment, saying that like there's just when I make mistakes, it's not like the difference between mistakes that I would make versus the mistake that he would make is much different because mine is more so on the I guess the reading side of things, whereas his could be like the simple things of the angles, and I could only respond back to him saying that I guess I have like thousands of games under my belt versus somebody like you guys who are constantly playing, but you still only have about 100 games of under your belt, right? And so I guess that's why Finn and I, you don't really see us practicing too much. But I will say, we talked about teams that don't practice, but TTT has been doing some film reviews together, guys. So Len and the Spicy
Mm.
Eggs better watch out. They've been studying you guys.
Mhm.
They can study us all they want because we don't know what we're doing half the time.
That's right.
And that's the beauty of what you said about kind of just that intuitive play style, kind of what you were just alluding to, Wayne, and what Lem said too. Once you get 1,000 games, once you get all those reps under your belt, you just go. You just go out there and play, and that's probably where the game becomes the most fun too, and the most fun to watch. People just reacting creatively and intuitively on the fly.
Which
Yep.
you can bring it back full circle, like kind of what was happening with Tio and CJ out in coverage.
Mm, that could be, yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys. So heading into the semifinals now, we have two exciting games coming up. Um, we have for first money. I guess I'll ask you. You get to take your prediction on the spicy eggs versus the Toronto triple triples. Who do you what do you expect from that matchup, and ultimately who would you give the game to?
Uh, well, it depends on who the TTTs are playing. You got to imagine it's going to be their best lineup and Priz at QB. But then again, you never know. These guys are wild. They'll do anything. So, but I'm assuming it's Prism, and their best lineup. It's got to be. I think it's got to be a TTT victory. They're definitely favored. Uh, I, I don't know. It's going to come down to. It may come down to turnovers the uh, on the eggs side, right? I can see TTT is doing something tricky, getting in trouble with some icons. I don't know. I smell a couple fumbles cooking up. Uh, but who knows if that's actually going to happen. Overall, TTTs
No,
are
no
they're
fumbles
definitely
last
favored.
game.
Exactly, right? So we're kind of getting due.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, TTTs. I mean, it's like hard to bet against them in this game.
Yeah, I'll be fully surprised if they didn't have Prism at QB. I fully expect that he will, with Ducks at wide receiver and Ocho as the running back. I think my X factor for that game would be Ducks, if he could apply pressure to Smith and put him into third and fourth and longs. That's where I personally feel that Smith has been having challenges both last season and this season. And
Mm.
on the other side, if Spicy Eggs, um, of course, Lem is going to be a factor if he's playing and blitzing. But I think in my opinion, the X factor on the defensive side would be Smith. I could be wrong, but I'm going to predict that they're going to probably target Smith on defense there. Um, so it'll be interesting to see if Smith shows up. Covers those shorts that you were kind of implying money that was open. See if Smith can cover that up, and but also play well in the deep there. But yeah,
Mm.
switching over to you, Lem. You get the Finn's World versus the Flying Spiders. What's your thoughts on that game, and ultimately, who do you think will win that one?
So I'm still here. I'm still part of this podcast. I'm going to answer the question about TTT versus the Huevos, and
I left you all on purpose. I left you all on purpose
the
because you're part of the game.
the Huevos are going to come out and win substantially, not close. See you next time, TTT. Um, but anyway, for Finn's World versus the Spiders, yeah, I think it's an interesting matchup. I uh, I forget what happened in the regular season again.
We won in week one and preseason. So preseason we beat them. Uh, Damn, I don't remember. But anyways, the week one game at least was 21-7.
That's right. Yeah, and they couldn't really get their mojo going. So I think, and maybe this is actually part of the issue with practicing that they haven't really practiced together too much. I think they are all really good on defense. Portis's coverage is like sneakily crazy. Like nothing is like ever open on his side. Irv obviously has crazy um, defense. He can cover like a 90 slant, dip, post. Like he covers it all. Like I don't know how he does it. Um, so I think disciplined against Finn's fast-paced offense. I think that um, the number two ranked Spiders can actually come on top of Finn's World. I think there's more experience and discipline on the Spider side. I think there's a little bit more craziness for Finn's World, and depending on the lineup at Blitz, whether it's Intox or Blue Squid, I think they can. I think Irv can tailor his offense around who's blitzing him as well. So it's going to be up to if Finn's World wants to win, it's going to be up to them, Intox or Blue Squid, to be the difference maker.
Right. Money. I don't want you to flip your shit at me and say I didn't include you into that question. So, you have any thoughts on that second game as well?
Yeah, I do. I think I mean, it's one of the top high-powered offenses versus top defense. And unfortunately, I mean, that's just the way the game works. And in real life, in real football as well, you got a top offense for a top versus a top defense. The game is slanted to be favorable for offense, so offense can score. Therefore, the offensive team must be favored. Therefore, Finn's world is favored here.
Interesting. So we got Lem. Did you say Spiders hold the edge on us? I didn't hear.
Yeah, I think I might not have said it, but yeah, I think it's gonna be a Spiders tight game, just because of their overall discipline and experience.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm never one to say that I'm not confident in any of the games. So, um, despite all that, I think that this game will come down. I don't think this game will be close. I think whoever is going to win this game is going to blow one another out. It's either we're going to blow them out or they're going to blow us out. And I'm looking forward to that game. It should be very exciting. Just for some context and history for some of the people who weren't there back then. Irv and Finn were teammates back in the day, like Jeff and CJ. Finn was never the QB in my memory. He was always the wide receiver and running back. So I'm very excited for this game because Irv is going against his former player, and my quarterback in Finn is going against his former QB in Irv. And I get the pleasure of playing potentially against Sheep, Turkey, and Portis. And, I'm looking forward to those matchups for sure.
Mhm. Oh, maybe some mind games coming in into play with all that history there.
If it's a mind games, we're gonna
Yeah.
win this 100%.
I want. Let me. I want to backtrack real quick to the eggs game.
Okay.
Thinking about it, I want to say that my X factors are going to be Ocho and Lem. Ocho because both on defense. Ocho because he's crazy, and sometimes he'll just do crazy stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. He just says, "Hey, this play is going to be 90. I don't care what I see. I'm just covering that." He just does it. Uh, and for Lem, it's going to be if Lem can get one of his sweet picks that he that he got against Jeff, where that's that sneaky blitz and then roll off and just grab a nice little one-handed int. So those are my two X factors for that game.
It's
Rest my
funny.
case.
It's funny you mentioned Ocho doing crazy things because I can't remember exactly which game it was, but it was one of the games where he played QB. So I'm guessing that's either week one or the week seven game against us, where he just completely jumps a hook just based on instincts. Like it was, there's nothing, there was no
Yes.
cuts, no nothing. He just jumped it completely, and
He
it
just
paid off.
decided it's a hook, so I don't care. I'm just doing it. Yeah.
That's right. That's the
Yeah.
veterans Hall of Fame's instincts that you just don't learn or develop. It's just a feel to the game. Um,
Well, that's in you.
and since I might have got you upset earlier, Lem, I want to give you a chance to get you to be butter back up. Money just said that you're the X factor for this game. How do you feel about Money's confidence in yourself to not only get another pick six from the blitz position, but also to have an impact or like the biggest impact for your team playing the TTTs?
So I don't know. I think some people might have more faith in me than I have in myself, or if my teammates have in me, or really it's just Tony. Tony's been negging me all season, and it's brought my confidence way down. So, um,
Ah,
no, I'm just kidding. But he has been negging me all season. But besides that, I do feel like I can make plays and make consistent plays here and there, whether they're sacks or the scary swat from the blitz position, or even an int. But yeah, the interceptions from the blitz position are brutal and usually game changing because you think it's going to be an easy dump off or something, and then the blitzer sees something and comes around and turns it around. But yeah, no, I appreciate it, and we'll see if I can live up to the hype if I can play.
Well, we
well,
love you. We love
uh,
you, Lem, and we saw your running back maybe take a hit every time Smith is your QB, but we saw in the leading up to the end of the regular season, your offensive numbers were there. So let's just see if what you show us this Sunday. Sorry, Money. What were you wanted to say?
I was just saying. I was just gonna say I'm rooting for him. I'm all legs, baby.
There it is. All right, guys. We are currently doing well on time. I think we're at the 37-minute mark. So I don't mind jumping into our what if questions, but at the same time, what I learned last week was that Squid came in hot with some questions. So, Money or Lem, if you have any topics that you wanted to bring up before we go into the what ifs, the floor is yours.
I think I did want to bring up something about scheduling because we didn't actually solidify any rules on playoff scheduling. Whether Dan thinks that there are or not is moot at this point. But um, the rules, like specifically, and you can go look at them now, unless Dan might have edited his own post or something. I don't think he did. But it, there are no scheduling rules for the playoffs. Um, there are only scheduling rules for the regular season. The only things in the playoff rules say is that the playtime rules are the same as the regular season. 20 minutes. Uh, I forget what else we decided on that, but like there's the 20 minutes and we can play subs and etc. Like those are only the rules that are solidified. So we should really think about maybe we got to do a poll this week or something, or maybe do it for next season playoff scheduling because to CJ and Young were kind of arguing about with and Dan for practice time. There is last preseason ended up being like a month long or games, and we don't want that to keep happening. I think we want to have a more efficient scheduling process. It'd be better off to get more leagues under our belts as time goes on, and not. So we should come up with a plan. I think we should come up with a little bit longer scheduling the season instead of making it a week. Make it 10 days and allow for no freebie reschedules. 10 days is a long time. But yeah, so I think I want to get your guys' thoughts on what we should do for postseason scheduling because we shouldn't have a scenario where postseason takes longer than a month.
Did you want to go first, Money?
Yeah. I don't really have any thoughts on the logistics of it, or the specifics, other than to say that having a DQ in playoffs would suck, and I would want to avoid that at all costs. But that being said, the 10-day thing that you just brought up, Lem, that sounds nice. I mean, that sounds sufficient, um, and sounds more efficient than any sort of rescheduling thing. The difficult part is everyone has lives, everyone has stuff going on outside. So, like, we got to be cognizant of that. But at the same time, it's playoffs. And so everyone should know, all right, this is the important time. This is the crunch time. You got to be ready and you got to be around to do whatever, like there's no messing around here in playoffs. So maybe some of that can be like solved with just a more upfront kind of expectation setting, you could say. But
Right.
10
Agreed.
days
And
sounds good. Yeah.
I would DQ, and I think if all parties are amenable to it, um, I think that if it was longer than 10 days and there's like a appropriate someone wasn't able to play, um, then you can always postpone scheduling like a little bit. But if it's just like, oh, I didn't feel like it today, or I got mad at my teammate, or um, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, like then we gotta keep stuff moving. And if five other players, two from your own team, three from the other team, streamers, people that might actually take like specific time off to watch the games, like it's a disservice to everyone else that's involved too.
Yeah. Agreed. Maybe
Yeah.
one thing to that would have to be specified too is if the goal is to still at least have a game, considering all that, who can substitute in? Because there's that potential there of Wick coming in at the last second. So we got to maybe set some expectations there. Like, yeah, if literally no one else from your team can make it because, some catastrophic things have happened in life, uh, there's the pool of four other people. It's the people from the casting crew and, I don't know, the one team that's already been eliminated. Any one of them can sub in. If they can't either, then you're done. I don't know, right? Like that's the kind
Yeah,
of stuff we got to think about too.
yeah, we should just bring up the discussion. But Wayne, do you have any other thoughts?
Uh, so I agree with Money's point. We want to avoid the DQs as much as possible. I do agree on that. The rigging part is also, qualifying which ones are eligible for the subs. I can tell you that the reason why Wick was chosen there was because Tony said. No, I came from the thought process as long as both captains agree, especially like your opposing captain agrees with it, then I don't see issues with it, right? As long as there's still not part of a team. And the rules was basically, yeah, that this player is no longer part of the playoff contention, as well uh, and they're available to play. And so I asked if Wick would be included in that category, given the fact that he was probably the top prospect amongst the ones that we saw that night. And Tony saw no issues with it. So I was the one that kind of gave the green light based on the fact that Tony was also okay with that. Um, Now, going into the rescheduling part of everything, I agree. I do think everything comes with situations and scenarios that Money alluded to. Things happen in life sometimes, and this is a game of blitz. It should never really take precedent over things that are truly going on in life. And so, in this scenario, we did suspect that this game was being rescheduled for a non-valid reason. You know what I mean? And so I think there was some sense that we wanted to get this game still happening that night. Um, I think, an idea, and I do think that we should talk about it more in the off season, is that if both captains agree on this day, and that's also assuming that the captains have spoken to their team and made this day possible, then there's no going back, because Lem, you're all in Greece, you're on vacation. I'm sure you allocated time to make sure you woke up on that time to play the game, right? Ma may have taken some time off studying or whatever it is he has in life to play this game with us because he only comes on every now and then as well. So I think it's totally unfair for others. Like you said, it's a disservice to people who allocated that time. So, my suggestion here is if two captains agree on a date, there's no going back, and whichever team doesn't show up on that day, unfortunately forfeits, or we add in that clause of, potential subs to use. But I don't think rescheduling last minute is a precedent we want to allow for things like this, for example.
Agree. And just to set my own situation more clearly, I stayed up all night and like set up my gaming rig outside to not like annoy my family and use my cousin's internet and stayed up all night and 4 a.m. or something like that. So that would have been tough to go through that and to reschedule too. Um, so yeah, that was just
Exactly.
more clarification on my end.
Exactly, and I don't think it was fair to your whole team, right? I'm sure Smith had busy things to do, like your whole team, right? Your whole team had
Oh
things,
yeah,
and so, and like I said, yourself, all that things that you put in place in order to even play the game, it's totally unfair just because one team had some internal drama going on. You know what I mean? So, anyways, it could like for example, if CJ really had a life situation happen where somebody like a emergency, you know, like those things happen, and we could definitely be more forgiving. You know what I mean? But I think.
yeah.
I think there's just boundaries to this. But anyways, I don't have the perfect solution, but the only one I could think of is if two captains agree, we make it work. Otherwise, potential subs come into play.
Yep, I agree
Sounds
with all
good.
that. Um, and we gotta set the parameters of what agreed means. So I would suggest for future games, when a captain agrees, one of the captains has to like set the event on Discord. It can add an event. Once that event is added in, then that's like locked in. The game's locked in, and that's how we consider it completely agreed. Games happening on that day
Valid or
at
whatever.
that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so my only final point here, and this is kind of anyways, but I had a back and forth with Dan based on this simple, basic situation where his whole team wanted them to reschedule for Sunday, given the fact that they thought that CJ was unresponsive and not being able to show up, and therefore they wanted to push the game out to Sunday, right? Um, Not about the actual rescheduling part, but he was asking us if we're following the rules to the T. I gave him an answer saying that we're not following anything, any real rules to rule book to the T, or even his own rule book that he created back in season one. We're just being reasonable people, reasonable adults, and given how things come into like any situations that arises, I trust that the three of us would be able to make a decision and a reasonable decision at that. But I only want to end this topic off with that is like what's your perspective on that rule book? Like I'm the one on the side of just being reasonable. I think we can be flexible where we need to, but we can also be strict where we have to be, right? So, what's your thoughts on that?
So I think that's basically in line with what I said earlier. There are no postseason rules for rescheduling. There are regular season rules for rescheduling, and we didn't solidify anything. So in that situation, it's up to um, someone to make an executive call. We already agreed in a time, and someone needs to be a mediator of that. If wanted to do was open to playing. Tony wanted to play at the scheduled time. We don't want to have. I think some people were thinking that it was important to not have a scenario where we delay too long. Have a scenario like last season where the playoffs took forever.
Yep.
So I think like with the tools that were available to us and the information that we had at the time, I think all of the decisions that were made were valid at the time.
Any thoughts, Money, before we move on?
Mm, yeah, I mean, I would say to answer your question directly, Wayne, I think I'm a big proponent of systems
Hmm.
and repeatable systems. Like that's what gets me bricked up. That's why I like editing, games and making games and StarCraft games in the Blitz map because I enjoy contemplating, thinking about all the components and how the mechanics work together and what results can happen. So with that being said, I'm a big fan of written
Hmm.
rules, set systems, but also I'm not, an absolutist, and I understand the maybe even the need for some, you know, just personal leeway, some adulting, kind of as you say. So I would say have everything written down, rules there, and if judgment calls need to come into play, it's not the damn Constitution, right? We don't need to do everything. Um, Judgment calls can be made.
Yep. All right. Sounds good. And yeah, and this is a perfect opportunity for those that are we're not happy with certain rules or situations that arose this season. No better time than the off season to address those. So bring it up in the rules, suggestions channel, wherever you see fit, and it'll be discussed amongst the community. And I think that's the fairest way and the approach we've been doing since we've been playing the game earlier this year. Um, all right, so guys, we're at the 51-minute mark. Any other topics you want to discuss before we just jump right into the what ifs?
Field
No,
goals,
sir.
are
Field
they ever going to
goals.
Oh,
happen?
What do you mean, money?
We're going
we
to
so
see it.
we almost did one, but Smith opted to not go for one. And then we wanted to field. We had like six opportunities in our week 7 game, but we tried going for for the dagger and came up short. And obviously missed the last field goal. So yeah, we wanted we should probably in general as a community do more because I think we're missing out on fourth downs.
I understand. I understand the desire to go for it on, when it's 4th and 4 or something, especially in this game. I think that's what you guys were in this last game, 4th and 4. But even so, man, the game could have been completely different, and previous games too. If we'd just taken some field goals. So, um, I just want to bring it up, just raise the issue, see if we can get the field goal meta, rolling a little bit. All I'm saying.
Not a trick question. Pop quiz, guys. How many field goals do you think were attempted this season?
3.
4.
Wrong. You guys are way off, man. We had 21 attempts this season.
Oh,
Um,
What?
this is not
No
including
way.
this is not including playoffs, by the way. But we had 21 field goal attempts, but of those 21, 16 of them were made. So what is that? About 75% success rate?
yeah.
Yeah, that's field goals, right? Not extra
Correct.
points.
Yeah, field goals.
Wow. Hmm. Interesting.
Money, I can see
That's
it
That's a
from
good
your
chunk.
stats, says that you were 3 for 4 for the season.
okay. 3 for 4. So exactly on average.
Yeah.
Did you say 75?
Yeah, 75. So you were you were the average field goal kicker, with Irv being the best one at 6 for 6.
Now that's a man who knows how to kick a damn field goal. Yeah.
One could say he's a man that knows how to kick a field goal, and some would say a man that doesn't score points.
What are you talking about? That's 18 points right there. Give that man a medal. Come on now.
All right, but yeah, did you want? Was there anything else you wanted to elaborate on this field goal thing, money, or just the strategy wise? Like, you can also argue that we haven't punted this season. Like, only there was only one punt all season, and it came down to the last game of the season.
Yeah, well, punting is tough because if it's like, I feel like most, so if you're backed up on your own 20, you're backed up on your own 30, it's fourth and 20 or something. A lot of games by that point you're already down by 14 or 21 or something, so you have to go for it. I don't think I'd be curious to know how many times we've seen a fourth and 10 plus on your own side of the field at when the score is tied. I don't think that's happened very much. Maybe within your own red zone.
I,
Um, I
I
think
have a
seem very much less likely.
I have a
Oh,
random but silly and also crazy suggestion. If we want to see more punting, because it is part of American football, maybe teams would be more encouraged to punt if the fumble probability is increased, so that they could recover the ball back. You know what I mean? Like, let's give it like 20% or 25% chance of a fumble, if they were able to hit stick correctly, once the other team fields it. You know what I mean? But it would incentivize them
oh,
to maybe go for the punt more, and it's all about territory, right? And so I could see it as a strategic play.
that's interesting. Yeah. So punt returns have higher fumble probabilities.
And also, like, just
Hmm.
me as just somebody that likes to play unpredictable scenarios. I also would like to see that punt just be randomized, like it go in all different directions, or even the offense has control over which direction that punt goes towards. I don't like that. It always goes to the same spots all the time.
That's true. Yeah. What one thing I'd like to see as well is I don't know if we saw it in a league game, but the classic, go for a 20-yard 90. If it's not open, then you punt.
Hmm.
Right? Like we don't need a punt right away, right when the ball's hiked. Kind of the nice thing of the mechanic is that you can see if the play is open, and if it's not, then you punt.
I don't know if you guys saw this play, and it's not really about punting, but in that playoff game, Jeff moved the Rafe all the way back behind his own line of
Yes.
scrimmage, and threw that ball away, guys. Like, that's innovative Jeff right there, man. That's a vision. I that opened my eyes when I saw that play.
Yeah, that was nuts. And he moved it twice. He moved it once, and Dan started going to it, and then he moved it again another 5 yards further away, and Dan went the opposite way.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, that was nuts.
man. Any thoughts on the field goals, or how to incentivize punts, maybe, or any ideas that you might have?
I haven't really had any ideas about it, but I do like the idea of the random location for punts as long as they're all like the same distance. Yeah, I also like the idea of the answer, something that just makes it more awesome for to punt and maybe give more reason to punt. But yeah, I haven't really thought past those things that you guys have talked about.
All right, guys. All right, let's just dive right in. We're approaching that 1 hour, and money. Sorry, just oh, sorry. I thought that was your money, and then I realized it came from Lem. Um, Money. Just want to make sure that we're good for time. Are you able to still continue through, given the time right now?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, so we'll be quick on this segment, and hopefully, Lem, you're good with it as well, because I know you want to probably head to bed soon. Let's jump into the what if questions. Lem, did you have any spicy or what if questions to start us off?
So this is a smaller, spicy what if question on uh, the playoff game that we just had against Phoenix against the Huevos. Um, on our first touchdown, uh, CJ jumped away from Tony instead of trying to make the tackle at the maybe like 3, 2, or 1 yard line. Did you guys think that he could make the tackle there? I thought he could have gotten us stuck on the one, and would that have appreciably changed the game?
I don't think so. I think Tony was saving his boost the whole time. So, yes, I do think, if okay, let's assume that Tony did not have a boost, then yes, CJ would have been able to tackle him with his own boost. But I think Tony had his boost and he was just waiting for it, honestly.
So just
I
to go against you, I think CJ took a bad angle. I think he could have gone more towards the corner, like the pylon tackle, like had he taken a different angle from the get go.
even with his current angle, I think he could have caught him. I think Tony was like would have been a millisecond away from having his boost recharged, and I think CJ could have caught him before he scored, even with that angle. But with an even better angle, sure. But that's kind of I guess that's some of the frustration setting in there.
Yeah, I think you could tell from the frustration or giving up on that quickly. But yeah, I do think that Tony had his boost, but I guess we'll have to look at game tape to see if it was true whether or not he truly had it or not. But anyways, yeah, I don't think could it have changed. I guess the spicier question would be like, do you think if he did tackle him, would it potentially, would they have gotten that stop? And I don't think they would have got that stop because I think Smith was in the mindset of, I think Smith has the mindset now that, when you're in the red zone, if you gotta sneak it, you gotta sneak it, right? So I think he would have got it eventually.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think we would end up with the score, but you never know what happens in the red zone. Could be a miscue, and Jeff had that misclick that had ended up in an on the goal to go, but it was a little bit shorter than that. So you could have miscues on the goal line. So I guess more defensive opportunities are better than just giving up the touchdown in that scenario.
All right, Money. You have a question or you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so I think from the last episode and the most recent playoff game has made me think a little bit more about chemistry. And so this question is really more directed to you towards you, Money. Is did you find at any point this season, or maybe even heading into the playoff game, did you find that you had chemistry with both Wick and Popgun? And if not, uh, which players do you feel like when you're playing in pub games or those random tournaments that we play, which players do you feel like you do have the most chemistry with, or that players that just bring out the best of you when you do play quarterback?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, like, to answer the first part, I don't feel like we ever fully unlocked that full chemistry. I don't think if it's like a meter, 100% success rate. I don't think we ever got to 100% um, on offense or defense, right? Because we got to talk about offensive chemistry and then coverage chemistry with Wick and I.
Hmm.
Wick and I, we were getting better on defense, and chemistry was improving every game. But I don't feel like I was in his head, right? And unless I can kind of predict what he's going to do as he does it, I don't really know. Like I don't really feel like I'm there 100%. On offensive side, we had some, like it's more just a testament to the kind of player he is and how good he is. Like I knew I could always rely on him to be there for icons, to throw up a shitty pass and he'd swat it away, and get a block. Um, but and similar with Pop, I don't know, yeah, it's not 100% ingrained just yet. And I don't know that I have that. I feel that 100% chemistry with, well, yeah, with anyone, just yet.
Hmm. So to answer the second
Part of,
part was that you pub play wise, I guess from 100% meter, you don't there's nobody that you can think off the top of your head that you really would gel with consistently.
I mean, it's like gel. I think I can gel with plenty of people just fine, but to have that true 100% chemistry, not necessarily.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think we can gel with people. Um, and it comes down to communication though, too, and that's part of it. So it's like, well, I'm curious about what you guys do. So Lem, I know you blitz a lot of the times, but well, even on blitz, right? Like, what's your guys' communication status like? Are you calling out plays? Are you saying, hey, running back going up? Hey, I'm blitzing. Hey, I'm going this. Hey, I got RB. Or here, let me get bottom. Like while the play is going on, or are you
Yeah,
guys kind of just? free balling it.
So for the most part, we're calling out. So like if like handoff, toss up, or he's starting to sneak up, or like I'm jumping off to get the icon, even if it lets up the sneak or something like that. So we're gonna call out those things. The weird thing is that like if it's like a reverse slant or like a crossing route, and me and one of the coverage people like we'll just like switch and like kind of not even say that we're switching. That happens kind of frequently, so it's kind of like we're kind of like besties. We like just know each other. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, for the most part, we're calling out stuff that we're doing, and then like once in a while we will sprinkle in like a called defense.
That is that true for you as well, Wayne? Are you calling stuff out as the play progresses, or are you just kind of reacting and doing?
You're not gonna like my answer, money.
What is it? Just do it? What?
Most of the times, it's Finn and I just continuously trash talking one another during a whole play. Um, we literally trash each other from offense to defense. Yeah, I would say that 75% of the time I'm the one to call defensive calls, and we execute. The other 25% maybe Finn calling defensive plays. In during a live play. Finn and sometimes and lately it's been in talks where it's like, oh God, Wayne, cover short, and I'm like, don't worry, guys, I got this, and I never cover it, and it's always open, and the other team always catches it, and then at post play they just continuously bash me, and so I join in on the fun and continuously bash them as well. So to answer your question, we're not as methodical as Lem's team in terms of calling plays, but but Finn and I think just instinctively know what we're doing, whether it's deep or short. But sometimes, and I'm sure you've seen this on game tape money, is where both Finn and I jump short because we both want to be that guy that jumps short, and then the deep is just completely open, and it bites us in the ass sometimes. So, uh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's why one of the keys during the midseason review I had for us is we gotta communicate better on defense because we don't work together as a team per se, but we are yelling at one another during the actual play is happening.
Okay. So Finn's world is kind of its own madness of itself. And,
Yeah,
and that was one of the things that we wanted to work on in Monopoly Men was um, being more communicative on, and we got better at that over time, especially in the last couple games of the regular season. But you know, all the entire Monopoly Men, like the team is just nice, cool, chill dudes. Pop Gun, Wick obviously goes without saying. Krusty, and Krusty and Pop Gun being a little bit new, they're less likely to be vocal. Wick not too vocal from the beginning. So we were trying to get that up and call out switches and do all that sort of stuff. And we didn't really get to that point. And I'd say that, I told this to the team after the game anyways. I'm like, well, that's one of the things that we could improve upon. That's one of the only critiques I'd give. But yeah, so I think that's just maybe you just got to try on that until going back to what we said before, it becomes instinctual. You
hmm
play not only 1,000 games, but 1,000 games with other players too.
hmm Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it would have been interesting to see you guys execute, not just like be more communicative, but also like mixing up different defensive coverages. Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything sophisticated. It could even be as simple as you and Wick switch top and bottom, right? Or money you go blitz one possession or whatever it is, right? Just to feel the just because I feel like every player has their own tendencies, as you probably know now, money, right? And so that little tendencies throws off the opposing QB's reads sometimes, right? And so just little things like that, I think could have been interesting tweaks on your defensive side of the ball at least.
Yeah. Yep. For sure.
All right, money, you have a question for us?
Hmm. question. Well, yeah, I guess this could be a question format. Is I'm thinking about what if we had a all-star, not even an all-star, but kind of like, hmm, I don't know, yeah, like an all-star planned tournament. Let's just say, right? So the teams they can't pick who they're playing, right? Or they can't pick who they're playing with. If we're gods, we get to say, hey, you're on this team and you're playing this other team,
Hmm.
right? And let's say we'll just keep it two teams here, two teams of three. Who are those two teams, those combination of players that you'd want to see battle against each other?
For like an all-star type of event.
Yeah. Or it could be, it could be a game, a rookie all-star game for the lulls
Oh, so
as
it could
well.
be any 3-on-3 game that we would like to feature, basically.
Yeah, what would be if we set up a Twitch televised game for all of
Gotcha.
America to see? Who would your 3v3 game be?
Lem?
I need to think about it.
All right. While Lem thinks about it, um, I will think on the spot as well and say, um, that's a great question, Money. Just want to say that. That's a great question. And okay, I'll try to be quick and then also give you two because I am a fan of the rookie game because I don't care to see um, the old heads play against each other all the time. So I'll start with the rookies. Blue Squid at QB. Maybe have Sin on that team since I think Squid is the more experienced of the beginner QBs. Sin, Squid, and let's also give him MA. Okay, versus
Ooh.
the other side, the rookies. I think we would have is um, I think Intox is the one that seems to like quarterback the most, so I'll give him the QB. Also, there's Krusty. And then, is there any rookies I'm missing? Because if I'm not missing any real rookies, then I'm going to put Popcorn in here because I want to see him play against these guys.
Mm, okay.
So yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
can't really
Great.
think of any other rookies.
so then yeah. So the Squid, MA, Sin versus Intox, Krusty, and Popcorn. That would be a game I would want to see from the rookie side.
Hey, yeah, I like that. I I think the only problem there, I think Squid is a little more. He has more QB games under his belt.
Hmm.
Um, I like to see a Cuddy in there as well. A Cuddy featured game is always an entertaining one for sure.
Hmm.
Do you have
I, no,
specific
so I think for this lineup that Wayne had mentioned for the rookie lineup, I think it's actually pretty balanced because Cinda playtime as I think most of the other players that have played or that he mentioned. So I think it would be surprisingly balanced. I think it could work out. Um, so it would be exciting. Um, the other, so if we're ready to move on, I line up unless we want to talk about the rookie lineup a little bit more.
How about you give us your all-star lineup then? How about that, Len? An all-star game that you
No,
would
I
want.
wasn't. I was not going all star. I was
Okay.
going fun.
Okay.
Um, so I think it'd be fun to do big personalities and uh,
Ooh.
game. So I think it'd be fun to have a game. Jeff QB. Yeah, and this is actually lining. It's sounding like the showdown that we very talked about. Jeff at QB, Tony at receiver. I got to think of the running back still. On the other side, Jay Cuddy at QB, DJ, and then we got to think of some big personalities. Maybe
Sorry.
maybe
So,
Prism.
sorry.
Sorry,
For the Cutler CJ team, Money, did you catch who the running back was?
I think
I,
we
I
don't
didn't
have
I
a
didn't say,
running
I
back
didn't
yet.
Oh,
yeah I didn't say running
okay.
back yet.
Sorry.
So
Yeah,
maybe,
Dan and Prism could be good running backs though. Both of
yeah,
them.
both like really good at RB and defense and stuff. So, you know, maybe give Dan to Cuddy and Priz to Jeff. Yeah, I think that's it. So Jeff, Tony, Priz, Cuddy, CJ. I think that'd be a lot of uh, a lot of drama on both of those teams. A lot of there'd be a lot of contention yelling at each other, both on the offense and defense. So I think that'd be just a really fun thing. And like, not only that do you watch it, but you have to we have to figure out a way to be in both of the channels to listen in on those
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Priz definitely tried to do that one time during the showdown where he just jumps into other people's streams and I mean voice channels and take a listen into the team's locker room. But yeah, that is a interesting team matchup that you assembled.
yeah, and I think that just to make it, a little like better, I think we need to have like three streamers, one to do the general one, watching from OBS and not being in any of the team's channels, and then one that sits in each of the team's channels, and then we use Money's awesome media skills and kind of splice run two plays at the same time, one from the offense side, one from the defensive side. I think that'd be really cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, a super televised kind of well put together cut game. You got the commentary, mic'd up players. That's what I want. That
Yeah,
sounds amazing.
yeah, we should do that. If not this lineup, at least like a game style like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Amen.
very interesting ideas. Money,
Any other thoughts on that lineup?
yeah, Money, you have any thoughts?
No, no, if that's all, yeah, no, that sounds good. I think that's about as good as we could do. The only other, I mean, just theoretically, it would be, I can think that theoretically it would be fun to see two teams where each team has a veteran, one vet at coverage, and the other coverage guy is a rookie, and both teams have up and coming QBs, kind of mid level QBs, and kind of see what chaos ensues there. As for specific names, no, I don't know. I think I got nothing to add to what Lem said.
All right then. All right, guys, let's wrap things up with maybe one final question each. Lem, back to you.
I think I'm okay right now.
Yeah. Okay. Money, you have another one, or should I go?
I'll end it off with a little bit of a teaser slash question here. Is in the spirit of talking about tournaments, upcoming tournaments. The the next update is going to have a couple of fun modes here. So as this is the Tyrants podcast, we get to decide this. Okay, I'm only going to tell you the names of the modes, and then we can agree based on that what the next tournament is going to be played on. It's going to be played on one of these two modes that we choose. So the modes are chaos mode and big head mode. Which mode would you most like to see a tournament played under? Standard tournament rules, 10-minute halves, whatever.
Open hands, but yeah,
Oh,
chaos mode for sure.
Chaos mode tournament? Okay.
I damn, I need more info for me to really make a decision. But you teasing me with the labels of chaos can't go wrong, and big head can't go wrong. But since Lem chose the chaos one, I guess I have no choice but to follow through with chaos.
All right. There you go. It's a done deal. Chaos mode tournament coming up at a Blitz Discord server near you.
There it is, guys. What a teaser that Money just dropped on us, guys. For those that have made it this far into this episode. So I get the sense that we want to wrap things up here. So I don't really have a final spicy question, but Money, I guess, since you teased us with this part, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Is there anything else you wanna? Because I know you've been working on these some uh, additional map updates. Is there any things that you want to drop? And if not, that's fine. I could ask a different question.
Hmm, no, no, I'll leave Chaos and Big Head to the reveal day. Um, I'll say that uh, some updates are coming to fumbles, increasing the fumble percentages a little bit on big hits, ultralisks only. We've all known how contentious it's been when fumbles are too common, so we don't want to make it too crazy. But that's something that we can expect in the near future, as well as a change to the fumble itself. Um, if the first attempt to pick up the fumble is a tie, it will bounce into another fumble and go another direction, another randomized thing. Um, and then if that second one is a tie, well, then it's going to be random who gets it, kind of like what it is now. So some small little tweaks to fumbles coming up soon, which I think should be enjoyable.
Okay, that's awesome. So I'll finish off with just one final, and this is only to your money. It's a very light-hearted question that Squid started last episode. If you were to choose one or two people from the server that you would like to chill with in real life, who would they be?
Oh man, that's tough. That is tough. Uh, Let me keep my list very brief and short, but that would be Lem, Wayne, Dux, Irv, Ocho, Wick.
What a short
Squid for
list.
sure. Finn, Down, MA, Ultra. Hey, I'd chill with Ultra too. Um, yeah, you know, Cuddy, I feel like that would be a fun night too, hanging out with Cuddy. Um, yeah, man. I mean, the great thing about the server is we got a list of Pop, of course, um, Sandman, who actually lives in Vegas, so I'm surprised we haven't met up yet.
Yeah,
We
seriously.
have, yeah, yeah, we're blessed to have a great server with a great community, a lot of really good people, personalities. Dan, I would, DJ. So really anyone that we see regularly, I'd be down to.
All right, awesome guys. So assuming that Lemons wants to go straight to bed right now, I'm gonna conclude things here with that was a great conversation that we had. I really enjoyed spending time here with you guys and Money. Really insightful conversations and discussions and questions that we had. Um, and looking forward to the semifinals. It should be a thriller and a double header this Sunday. And for anyone that has got this far, uh, Duxter's uh, weekly interview with Navigating with the Blitz will be dropping as well. So take a read, take a listen to this, and if you have any thoughts or questions you want us to answer in the next episode, then feel free to drop them wherever we may see them. Until then, we're signing out, guys. GG's.